Jin opened his eyes to blinding white light. His head throbbed with pain. He blinked several times, trying to make sense of his surroundings. The ceiling above him was smooth and shimmered with a pearl-like glow. This wasn't his research vessel. This wasn't Earth. "He's awake," said a soft, musical voice. Jin turned his head toward the sound and froze. Standing beside him was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. No, not a woman. As his vision cleared, he noticed her skin had a subtle blue tint that seemed to glow from within. Her eyes were larger than human eyes, almond-shaped, and a striking violet color. "Where am I?" Jin's voice came out as a dry croak. The being approached with graceful movements. "You are on Elysium. I am Mira, High Counselor. You have been unconscious for 3 Earth days." Jin struggled to sit up. His muscles felt weak, as if he hadn't used them in much longer than 3 days. Mira helped him, her touch gentle but firm. "How did I get here?" Jin asked. The last thing he remembered was being on his research vessel near Neptune, studying an unusual spatial anomaly. Then there had been a flash of light, a violent shaking, and then nothing. "Your ship was destroyed in an asteroid collision," Mira explained. "We were monitoring your solar system and detected the incident. We brought you here." Jin looked around the room. It was sparsely furnished but elegant, with curved walls and floating light orbs. Through a large window, he could see a city of crystal spires that caught the light of a distant sun. "There were 5 others on my ship," Jin said. Mira's expression turned sad. "We could only reach you in time. I am sorry." The weight of grief pressed on Jin's chest. His colleagues, his friends, were gone. He closed his eyes, fighting back tears. When he opened them again, he noticed 2 more beings had entered the room. They resembled Mira, but with subtle differences. One had silver hair that seemed to float around her head. The other had skin with a greenish tint. "This is Sora, our lead scientist." Mira gestured to the silver-haired one. "And Rin, our medical expert." They both nodded at Jin with curious expressions. "But why save me?" Jin asked. "Why bring me all the way to wherever this is?" "Elysium is 27 light-years from your Earth," Sora said. "We have been observing your species for many centuries." "That doesn't answer my question," Jin said, a hint of suspicion creeping into his voice. The 3 aliens exchanged glances. Finally, Mira stepped forward. "Our species faces extinction, Dr. Jin. We brought you here because we need your help." Jin frowned. "What could I possibly do to help an advanced alien civilization?" "We are dying." Rin spoke for the first time, her voice deeper than the others. "For the past century, we have been unable to reproduce. Our population has decreased from billions to less than 10 million. I'm a xenobiologist, not a reproductive expert," Jin said. "But that is exactly why we chose you," Sora explained. "Your research on cross-species genetic compatibility is what caught our attention." Jin remembered his work, theoretical models for how different alien species might interact on a genetic level. It had been largely theoretical, never meant for practical application. "Our scientists have discovered something remarkable," Mira continued. "Human DNA, specifically yours, shows potential compatibility with our own. You might be the key to our survival." Jin felt a cold shock run through him as he realized what they were suggesting. "You want me to help you reproduce, to father a new generation of your species?" "Not exactly," Sora said. "We need your genetic material to develop a treatment that could restore our reproductive abilities." "And if that doesn't work?" Jin asked. The silence that followed answered his question. Jin swung his legs over the side of the bed. "I need to think about this. This is a lot to process." "Of course," Mira said. "Rest now. We will speak again tomorrow." After they left, Jin walked to the window. The alien city spread out below him, beautiful and strange. Somewhere out there were millions of beings whose future might depend on him. That night, Jin dreamed of Earth, of his small apartment overlooking the Pacific Ocean. He dreamed of his parents, who had encouraged his scientific curiosity. He dreamed of his colleagues, now lost to the cold depths of space. He woke to find Sora standing at his bedside. "I thought you might have questions," she said. "Questions you did not wish to ask in front of the High Counselor." Jin sat up. "Yes. How did you really find me?" "The chances of you monitoring Earth at the exact moment my ship was damaged seem impossibly small." Sora's expression changed subtly. "You are perceptive, Dr. Jin. Perhaps we have more to discuss than I anticipated." Jin knew then that his journey was just beginning, and that the truth was likely more complex than he could imagine. Jin followed Sora through the winding crystal pathways of the main city. 2 weeks had passed since he awoke on Elysium, and each day brought new wonders. The buildings seemed to grow rather than be built, rising from the ground in elegant spirals that caught the light of their blue sun. "Our architecture connects us to the planet," Sora explained, noticing his fascination. "The structures are living things, in a way. They respond to our needs and grow accordingly." Jin reached out to touch a nearby wall. It felt warm under his fingers, almost pulsing with life. "Like your version of plants." "Something like that," Sora smiled, though much more complex. They passed groups of Elysians who regarded Jin with obvious curiosity. All were female, or at least appeared so to his human eyes. They were tall and graceful, with their distinctive iridescent skin in various shades of blue, green, and purple. Many nodded respectfully as he passed. "They seem to know who I am," Jin observed. "Everyone knows who you are," Sora replied. "You are the first human to walk on Elysium, and possibly our salvation." Jin frowned at the reminder. The question of his role here still troubled him deeply. "I'd like to see more of how your people live, not just the science facilities." Sora tilted her head. "What would you like to see? Do you have markets, schools, parks, places where people gather?" Sora brightened. "Of course. Follow me." She led him to a large open area where dozens of Elysians moved among colorful floating platforms. Some platforms held strange fruits and vegetables. Others displayed intricate artworks or technological devices Jin couldn't identify. "Our community exchange," Sora explained. "Not quite a market as you would understand it. We don't use money. Resources are shared based on need and contribution." Jin watched an elderly Elysian receive what looked like medical supplies from a younger one. No items changed hands in return. "How do you prevent people from taking advantage of the system?" Jin asked. "It's simple," Sora said. "Our civilization reached a point where we understood that cooperation benefits everyone more than competition. When basic needs are met for all, greed becomes illogical." Jin thought of Earth's endless conflicts over resources. Humans haven't reached that understanding yet. They continued through the exchange to a large dome filled with young Elysians. They sat in small groups, manipulating holographic displays or examining physical objects that shifted form as they touched them. "A school," Jin guessed. "A learning center," Sora corrected. "Education is self-directed here. The young choose their areas of interest and develop at their own pace." Jin noticed there were far fewer children than adults. "The reproductive crisis," he murmured. Sora's expression grew somber. "Yes, the youngest here are nearly 50 years old. We haven't had a successful birth in decades." As they exited the learning center, Jin stopped suddenly. "Sora, there's something I need to know. The story about rescuing me from a destroyed ship, it doesn't add up. The chances of you happening upon my damaged vessel are astronomically small." Sora's violet eyes met his. After a long moment, she sighed. "You're right. It's time you knew the truth. Come with me." She led him to a small private garden and activated a device on her wrist. A shimmering field surrounded them. "Privacy barrier," she explained. "What I'm about to tell you isn't known to many Elysians." Jin waited, his heart pounding. "We've been studying humans for centuries," Sora said. Earth has been of particular interest because of certain genetic similarities between our species. When our reproductive crisis began, we intensified our research. You were looking for compatible DNA, Jin guessed. Yes, we analyzed thousands of human genetic profiles. Yours was the closest match we've ever found. Sora hesitated. Your ship wasn't destroyed by an asteroid. We brought you here deliberately. Jin felt cold despite the warm air. You kidnapped me. We saved you, Sora countered. Your ship did malfunction, but we arranged it. The others were teleported safely to an Earth outpost. Only you were brought here. Jin struggled to process this betrayal. My colleagues think I'm dead. Yes, we couldn't risk Earth knowing about us. Not yet. Jin turned away, anger rising in him. So everything Mira told me was a lie. Not everything. Sora touched his arm gently. We truly need your help. Our species is dying. That night, Jin used the computer terminal in his quarters to access Elysian data networks. Sora had taught him enough of their language to navigate the system. He searched for information about Earth, about human Elysian contact. What he found shocked him. The Elysians had been visiting Earth for millennia. They had collected genetic samples from humans throughout history. His name appeared in files dating back 20 years. They had been monitoring him since he was a child. When his door slid open, Jin wasn't surprised to see Mira enter. Her face was grave. You know, she said simply. Why me? Jin demanded. Out of all humans, why was I chosen? Mira's gaze was steady. Because you carry a rare genetic sequence that matches ours, and because of your work in xenobiology. We needed someone who could understand our problem, and possibly help solve it. You had no right to take me from my life, Jin said bitterly. Perhaps not, Mira acknowledged, but I won't apologize for trying to save my people. The question now is, what will you do with the truth? Jin looked out at the alien city that had been his home for the past 2 weeks. Despite everything, he couldn't deny the beauty of this world, the advanced nature of this civilization, and he couldn't ignore the plight of a species facing extinction. I need time to think, he said finally. Time is the one thing we don't have much of. Mira replied softly as she left him alone with his thoughts. Jin couldn't sleep. The revelation that he had been specifically targeted and brought to Elysium left him restless. He paced his quarters, mind racing with questions. Why had they watched him since childhood? What weren't they telling him? A soft chime sounded at his door. Jin hesitated before opening it, half expecting Mira or Sora. Instead, a tall Elysian with deep purple skin stood before him. Her posture was rigid, unlike the flowing grace of the others he had met. I am Hannah, she said in a hushed voice. We must speak, but not here. Will you come with me? Jin studied her face. There was an intensity in her eyes he hadn't seen in other Elysians. Why should I trust you? Because I'm the only one who will tell you the complete truth. She held out her hand. And because you have no other allies here. After a moment's hesitation, Jin nodded and followed her through dimly lit corridors he hadn't seen before. They descended several levels via a transport tube, emerging in what appeared to be an abandoned section of the city. The old laboratories, Hannah explained, leading him into a large chamber filled with dormant equipment. Before they were moved to the central district, several other Elysians waited there, all watching Jin with wary expressions. This is the human? Asked one with striking red hair, her tone disapproving. Yes, Ta, Hannah replied. This is Jin. Jin looked around the room. What is this? Some kind of resistance. Hannah's mouth curved in a slight smile. Perceptive. We oppose the High Council's plans for you and your genetic material. Why? Jin asked. Don't you want to save your species? Of course we do, Ta stepped forward. But not at the cost of what makes us Elysian. Hybridization with humans would fundamentally change who we are. Jin frowned. Mira mentioned genetic treatment, not hybridization. The Elysians exchanged glances. That's what they told you, Hannah said quietly. The truth is more complicated. She activated a holographic display showing DNA sequences. This is pure Elysian DNA from 500 years ago. The image shifted. This is current Elysian DNA. Note the degradation in these key sections. Jin studied the images with his trained eye. These sequences regulate reproduction. Yes, Hannah confirmed. They've been damaged beyond repair in our population. The Council's plan isn't just to use your DNA as a template. They want to create a new generation of Elysian human hybrids. Jin felt suddenly cold. But they need my consent for that. Ta laughed bitterly. Do they? They'd brought you here against your will. What makes you think they need your permission for anything else? An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. Jin's mind raced with implications. You still haven't explained why the DNA degradation happened in the first place. Hannah hesitated before touching the display again. New images appeared showing historical records. 2 centuries ago, our scientists developed a treatment for longevity. It was universally implemented. You extended your lifespans, Jin guessed. Yes, Hannah nodded. Average Elysian lifespan went from 150 years to nearly 400. A great triumph, or so we thought. No one realized until too late that the treatment had affected our reproductive systems. Jin studied the data carefully. This looks like an epigenetic modification that spread through subsequent generations, becoming more pronounced each time. Exactly. Hannah looked impressed. You understand quickly. So the reproductive crisis isn't natural, Jin said. It was caused by your own technological advancement. A price we should accept with dignity, Tai interjected. Not by diluting what remains of our species with alien DNA. Jin turned to Hannah. You oppose hybridization. What's your solution then? We believe our species has run its natural course, Hannah said solemnly. We should document our knowledge, preserve our culture, and accept our end with grace. Jin stared at her in disbelief. You're just giving up. There might be other options. Like what? Ta challenged. Jin's scientific mind was already working on the problem. If the issue is epigenetic, it might be possible to reverse the damage without hybridization, using targeted stem cell therapy to restore the original genetic expression. Hannah's eyes widened. You think that's possible? Theoretically, yes, Jin said. But I'd need access to historical genetic samples and your most advanced research facilities. The Council would never approve, Ta scoffed. Then we don't tell them, Hannah said, a new intensity in her voice. We have supporters in the research division who could help us. Jin held up his hand. Wait, before I agree to anything, I need to know everything. No more secrets. Hannah nodded slowly. There is one more thing you should know. The Council has already harvested genetic material from you while you were unconscious. They're already working on hybridization experiments. Jin felt violated, angry. Without my consent. Yes, Hannah confirmed. That's why we needed to reach you now. Will you help us find another way? Jin thought of the beautiful alien world he'd been exploring, of the faces of the young Elysians in the Learning Center, who might be the last of their kind. He thought of Mira and Sora, who had lied to him, but were fighting desperately to save their people. I'll help you, Jin decided. Not because I agree with letting your species die out, but because everyone deserves a choice about their future, including me. Hannah extended her hand in what she must have learned was a human gesture. Then we begin tonight. We have little time before the Council realizes what we're doing. As they shook hands, Jin wondered if he was making the right choice. Either way, he was now caught in the middle of an alien power struggle with the fate of an entire species hanging in the balance. 6 months had passed since Jin's treatment had been administered to the first group of Elysian volunteers. He stood on the observation deck of the Central Medical Tower, watching as Sora examined the latest test results. Her skin glowed with excitement as she studied the data. It's working better than we hoped, she said, turning to him with joy in her eyes. 87% of the treated Elysians are showing complete reproductive restoration. The remaining 13% show partial recovery and should achieve full function within another cycle. Jin smiled, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. In the months since the breakthrough, over 3,000 Elysians had received the treatment. The first successful pregnancy had been confirmed just 2 weeks ago, the first new Elysian life to be conceived in nearly 50 years. "The council wishes to see you," Sora added, touching his arm gently. Her touch no longer felt alien to him. If anything, it felt like home. Jin nodded, uncertain what to expect. "Your treatment has succeeded beyond our expectations," Mira continued. "Our scientists project that within 2 years, our entire population will have restored reproductive capability. You have saved our species from extinction." "I'm glad I could help," Jin said simply. Hannah spoke next, her once hostile expression now respectful. "We have also repaired and enhanced your communication system. You can now send a message to Earth, if you wish." Jin felt a jolt of surprise. "You're allowing me to contact Earth?" "Yes," Mira confirmed. "We believe the time for secrecy has passed. Your disappearance has been noted by your people. They believe you died in a research accident." Jin thought of his parents, his colleagues, his life on Earth. 6 months ago, he would have given anything to send a message home. Now he felt unexpectedly conflicted. "We have also prepared a ship," Hannah added. "If you wish to return to Earth, we will take you." The chamber fell silent as Jin absorbed this. They were offering him a choice: stay on Elysium or return to his own world. "Before you decide," Mira said, "we wish to present another option." She gestured, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed plans for a new structure near the Learning Center. "We propose establishing an exchange of knowledge between our worlds," Mira explained, "beginning with a scientific and cultural center here on Elysium. If you choose to stay, we would ask you to lead this initiative." Jin studied the plans. The center would house laboratories, classrooms, and living quarters for future human visitors. "You want to reveal yourselves to Earth?" Jin asked, surprised. "Not immediately," Hannah clarified. "We would begin with limited scientific contact. Your Earth governments would be informed of our existence, but the general population would not until both sides are ready." Jin walked around the hologram, considering the implications. "Why now? You've hidden yourselves for centuries." "Because of you," Sora said softly. "You showed us that cooperation is possible, that we can learn from each other without losing ourselves." That evening, Jin stood alone on the balcony of his quarters, watching Elysium's 3 moons rise over the crystal city. Below, lights twinkled as Elysians went about their evening activities. He had grown to love this world, so different from Earth yet beautiful in its own way. His thoughts turned to home. The crowded streets of Seoul where he'd grown up, the Pacific coast where he'd conducted his early research, the faces of friends and family. Earth seemed both achingly familiar and strangely distant now. A soft chime announced Sora's arrival. She joined him silently at the railing. "Have you decided?" she asked after a while. "I'm thinking about what I'd be leaving behind either way," Jin admitted. "On Earth, I was researching the possibility of alien life. Here, I found it." "And is it what you expected?" Sora asked, her voice gentle. Jin laughed softly. "Nothing like it. Better and worse and more complex. Like all life," Sora observed. "Yes." Jin turned to face her. "If I stay, I want to do more than just run a cultural exchange program. I want to continue helping with the genetic restoration project, and I want to learn everything about your world, your history, your science, your art." Sora's skin brightened with pleasure. "And if you return to Earth," Jin sighed. "I'd be the man who disappeared for 6 months and returned with wild stories about an alien civilization. Without proof, I'd likely be considered delusional." "We could provide proof," Sora suggested. "That might create panic," Jin countered. Humans aren't always rational when faced with the unknown. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the moons rise higher. Finally, Jin reached a decision. "I'm staying," he said. "At least for now. Earth has plenty of scientists. Elysium has only one human researcher." Sora's hand found his, their fingers intertwining despite their different anatomies. "I am glad," she said simply. The council chamber was a circular room at the top of the tallest crystal spire. The 12 council members, including Mira and now Hana, sat in a semicircle as Jin entered. All rose in a sign of respect that still made him uncomfortable. "Dr. Jin," Mira began formally, "we have gathered to discuss your future." 3 days later, Jin sent a carefully worded message to Earth, directed to the United Nations Secretary-General. It contained evidence of Elysium's existence and a proposal for first contact protocols. He signed it with his full name and added his new title, Ambassador Jin, Human Liaison to Elysium. As the message sped through space toward his home planet, Jin stood with Sora in the newly constructed communication center. Whatever came next would change both their worlds forever. But for the first time since awakening on this strange planet, Jin felt completely at peace with his place in the universe.